everyone. Welcome to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. This is your host, Tara Martini, along with Becky McNatten. We are so happy to have you listening as we live and share stories of mental health.
Okay, so Tara,
Becky.
We are taking on the topic of masking today. And it's an issue with a lot of layers to it.
So many layers.
What do you think of when you think of the word masking?
Not showing our authentic self and also protecting our authentic self.
Ooh, okay. I love that. The word masking, for listeners who may not know,
Yes.
you have a great definition, also refers to hiding or suppressing our true thoughts and emotions, representing ourselves to fit expectations of others. And we can do this consciously. We can actually have a conscious way of knowing that we're masking, or totally subconsciously as a way to fit into a moment. We read that moment or situation and seek to fit into what we think that moment needs. And we might wear different clothes or show up in a situation appearing on the outside very differently than we feel on the inside. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. This can be really great. Think of this like a job interview where we wear fancier clothes and try to exude confidence when we might feel super anxious and a total lack of capacity on the inside. So we show up different than how we authentically feel. Or maybe we're at a party that we didn't actually want to go to, and we appear chatty and engaged toward others, but maybe internally we're counting down the minutes until we don't have to be there.
Yep.
So we adapt our behaviors based on the environment that we're in, and that's a good thing until it isn't. And Tara, you and I talk about everything that serves disserves. Masking is conforming.
It is.
And conformity has a cost.
It does.
And I'm guessing that we have people who are listening today to us who are masking right now and already feel uncomfortable because we've said the word. And so we're with you in this because it is heavy to lift up or off the mask that we wear. I have been there myself, everyone. Especially if we get used to wearing it, there can be a mental health impact of keeping it on.
A huge impact.
But we can feel an exposure and mental health impact of taking it off too.
Well, and that's the whole point is it may feel so heavy wearing it, but the idea of taking it off is just not something you could even comprehend doing. So I will carry that weight.
Yes.
If that means I get to protect what's underneath.
Whatever's underneath. Yeah. That true or raw or vulnerable self that is existing, we want to protect that. Beautiful way to say it. And not only can there be a mental health impact of masking, we might even be masking our mental health experiences.
For sure.
This happens all the time. And as clinicians, we hear frequently about people's mental health experiences that they hide. And we might hide our struggles with anxiety or depression or really any emotion. Any emotion because of what we think others will perceive. So there is a mental health impact of masking our mental health experiences.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's my belief that in a solid therapy office in our practice, that our clients take off their mask every day and they set it on each of our coffee tables and they just don't have to.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And I hope they feel safe enough to take it off. They might wear it at the beginning when we first meet them, but we hear so much from our clients that it feels safe, right? They feel like they can be themselves.
Yeah.
But how many people, right, the minute they leave our office, then put back their mask? It's something I said to Becky before we aired, and I said, oh my gosh, I love this topic so much because it applies to so many of us.
So many of us, and we're going to talk through, hopefully, lots of it.
Lots.
Right now, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned as we dig deeper into this concept of masking. We're going to explore the function of masking, how to identify it, and what we can all do to practice being more real. Thank you for listening to Feels Out Loud. We'll be right back.
All you got to do now. Nothing to lose. In a world full of strangers, you don't know that's right.
Welcome Welcome back to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. I am Tara Martini with Becky McNatten. Let's dive right back into our discussion on masking.
Okay, Tara, in the mental health world, we often consider masking a coping tool.
We do.
What do you think?
I think in some ways it can be a beautiful coping tool. In that for so many people, particularly who are struggling with mental health issues, it would be far too exhausting every day. And it would be too much to ask someone, hey, every single second of every day, I need you to be your authentic self.
Yes.
Right? You're depressed. I need you to tell every person you encounter that you are depressed and how severe it is.
Yep.
Instead, it is putting that mask on for times where it does allow a little respite. Where if you have the strength to, you're sitting in school and you have that mask on and you're able to just go, you know what? I am struggling, but I also don't want to share my struggle because I don't feel like being vulnerable. That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And you have the beautiful distraction of school. So focus on that. But then when you're able to, when you're around a close friend or a trusted adult or you're at home, take that mask off. So because if you're using it as a coping tool, you are taking it off at times, right? If you have it on too often, then it goes from a coping tool to something else that we'll talk about later.
Right. I can think about times where it's definitely been a tool for me.
Yes.
I like to make up terms for myself, and
Which I love about you.
I call it authentic faking. That I know I'm using it. I know I'm using it because of exactly what you said. Either people are not owed our story just because they ask, even. Right. There's also times where I don't even know totally what to say. And so it feels easier to show up with what the expectation would be. There's also times where it definitely serves and, hey, I'm going to show up and seem very confident to try to unmask my anxiety.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yes. And you said this so awesomely a minute ago. Coping tools are exactly that. Tools. That we use to manage through moments in our lives. And I want to think about, for the rest of this segment, that masking is a tool. And we use tools every day, all day long. So listeners, we might not even know the tools we're using. Often, we don't.
We don't.
It's actually really amazing that our bodies learn to navigate experiences without us having to necessarily even be aware of them. But let's think about tools more specifically for a minute. Think of a toolkit you have at your home. Picture it. I have mine in my head. Probably a little bag or a box with some miscellaneous items in it. Might have a screwdriver or a hammer or pliers. Or if you're like my house, you have an infinite number of Allen wrenches from putting together various pieces of IKEA furniture over the years.
That you'll never need ever again because you get a free one every time.
But you feel like you need to keep it?
100%. Because why would you throw a tool away?
Why would you? So tools.
Yeah.
Tools. Whole bag or box of them.
Yep.
And maybe 1,000 Allen wrenches. They all have their place and time to be used effectively. But if we used any one of those all the time, we probably would have some challenges. Think about that. If you use any of them all the time, we would have some challenges. Consider the last time you put anything together. I did this just a couple weeks ago. What tools did you use? Did it need more than one? Probably did.
Yep.
And if you used the one tool the whole time, would it even worked out? Would you have been able to put the thing together? So if masking is a coping tool with life experiences, then I think it would be a pretty great tool when we need to show up for our first day on a job.
Yes.
Like where we can show we're 100% into that thing when we maybe don't feel it.
No, but to mask the confidence is actually an incredible tool because then we may start to believe it.
Yes.
And then it's working.
Or when we are loathing having to spend an ounce of time with a coworker who complains about everything, but need to be at a meeting with them and act professional. Great tool. Masking is a great tool. But what happens, and you kind of highlight this, when we use masking as a tool so often that it maybe starts to not be a tool? What happens to us when a tool almost becomes a framework or a perspective or a worldview?
Right.
We need to ask ourselves, how often am I masking? So listeners, if you are masking, it's okay. It's a tool. I do it probably every day. Tara and I were laughing
100%.
that we were saying during the commercial break, how often do you mask? Well, this morning.
Yep, we're wearers of masks.
But ask yourself, how often am I masking? How many areas of life am I using this tool? Mm-hmm. How many different areas of life am I using this? And am I aware that I'm using it? Mm-hmm. Do I even know I am? Have there been times when masking has turned into more than a tool for you, Tara?
Well, yes, of course.
And okay, so how did masking start to negatively impact you then?
So it's that piece of, and I'll use an example that listeners are familiar with. So going back to the teaching piece, is I was starting to get burned out, like we talked about in our episode related to burnout. And I noticed, because I was wearing the mask so much to mask that sense of burnout, that I found that I was starting to lose, and it sounds very dramatic, but I was kind of becoming a shell of myself, and I was losing that authentic self. Because it's just like if you wear that mask for so long, people aren't seeing the true me. Mm-hmm. If you pretend to be someone else for so long, you forget who that self really is.
It's a beautiful way to describe it, that you bring up the consequences of masking too often or too much can be super substantial, both to ourselves and then to the relationships. Because you're talking about, we don't know who we are as how we're showing up with other people. So we hide our pain, our feelings, our thoughts, and really that reality without anyone else knowing it. And so there's going to be some potential consequences. I want to talk about those.
Well, and that consequence of, for the teaching part, my world was teaching for 20 years, and it was my passion. I wore the mask too long, to the point where I stood back and thought, wow, I'm not getting any joy anymore. Why? It's not because of my students. They were my world. But I was wearing the mask so much that I was becoming very hollow, in that I wasn't soaking in that joy because I had the mask on. So it was like that roadblock.
That's a really good point. It ends up serving as a barrier.
Exactly.
And what you bring up, kind of three of the hugest things in terms of consequences. One of them is burnout in higher rates of anxiety and depression, especially social anxiety around perceived judgment from others. And you talk about this burnout from masking, like that, and you bring up it's such a great way to describe it, that mask becomes a wall against being able to authentically immerse in a thing. So we can't then feel the joy from it as well. We also have that loss of identity that you talk about. When masking becomes so normal, we forget who we are. And it can become automatic. I can think about times for myself that when I've been masking, I don't necessarily even know that I'm putting it on.
Right.
I'm not actively saying, okay, well, now I'm going to mask all the time. And in that, we start to lose, or never figure out to begin with, what rings true or real for us.
Right.
And so we can struggle with self-acceptance since we're working so hard to fit into the thing,
right,
or see ourselves in just kind of a series of expectations. And how do I meet that expectation, whether or not that's true for us? And then you talk about emotional exhaustion. So you like brought up all of them, where we feel like nobody knows who we really are. And that's tiring. Unresolved and unprocessed feelings are really exhausting to trying to pretend. And a friend of mine and I were just talking about how much energy it takes to show up differently from how we feel. Which,
to your point, it's so much more exhausting to show up differently than if we showed up authentically.
It totally is. And sometimes we have to do that.
Correct. In order to survive and function.
We have to cope through the day because we have, we maybe had an awful morning and we have to show up and do our job. This is where masking can be really helpful. But it takes like double energy. And we were talking about, with me and my friend, about how it was a day of being depleted for this friend. And it felt like it took this extra energy,
because it did,
to fake it. And I think of myself when it feels like I'm doing everything I can to not show people what's actually happening for me.
Well, because you're fighting it.
Because exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Certainly consequence of masking, difficulty seeking support or help. We have this fear of being judged, maybe misunderstood. You and I have talked about vulnerability a ton.
Yep.
Sometimes we stigmatize the expressions of vulnerability, but goodness, it is isolating.
So isolating. And also, to your point that you made like 10 seconds ago, is when we wear the mask too long, it's that idea of, but if I reach out for help, I've worn my mask too well. So everyone's going to be
Great
like,
point.
well, you're fine.
You're fine.
But I'm not fine. I am dying inside.
Yes. And when we don't show who we are, though, we
Right.
create this space between us and our people.
Right.
So lonely. So lonely.
So it is the loneliest thing.
And we might also then withdraw from that
Right,
and avoid
as a
opportunities.
response.
Yes. Yeah. And in thinking about this, I was pondering, how might this come across? I would guess there are times where this could show up as a relational rupture. And just last week we talked about conflict.
Yep.
Conflict can happen in every relationship. But when we hide our true selves, certainly you talked about this, you're not able to engage with joy.
No.
We can't foster meaningful connection because we lose the ability to be us. And that the people in our world sometimes might experience this as rejection or disinterest too.
Yep. And the interesting thing is, so with using me being a little vulnerable now, with my anxiety, I have found myself, and I think I said this to you or a coworker, with my anxiety, I found myself, in order to cope, I'd wear a mask at work, but I also found myself pulling away from everybody. And then it kind of hit me like a few weeks ago where I was like, wow, I have not socially engaged with our crew for a while because I wasn't making those bids for connection at all. Because that now it was like, whoa, I need to take off that mask.
Take off the mask.
I need to step into my authentic self and be like, hey, here's the deal, and kind of get back to that because we so easily, it's easier just to wear it, like we said,
right?
Because it's scary to take it off, acknowledge, wow, I've really pulled back from everybody and I need to put effort into.
Well, because you bring up a good topic. There's almost you have to acknowledge you've been wearing it too.
Right.
We have to say that
Which,
to people.
dear Lord, do we really want to admit that?
And shame on all of those sides. Because there's this shame about you having to acknowledge, hey, I've been masking. But when we do mask, we're sending ourselves these subtle messages about who we are isn't enough. It might be subtle, everybody, but we are sending that message. We tell ourselves that we need to adapt ourselves to what is needed around us. And that has impact long term. It definitely does. Maybe we think who we are is bad. Maybe we think who we are is bad. This happens so often in grief experiences that we get ourselves believing no one could possibly want to know how we are.
Right. And so we want to protect
moment.
others too.
Yep. That we're going to wreck someone else's day by showing up as us.
Yep. We don't want to bring them down.
And so, I think about, I've done this in my life so many times. Shame rules masking. Shame rules masking. And I want to talk about mental health circumstances that are prone to masking, because you talked about anxiety just now, which there are certain mental health conditions that are exacerbated by masking.
Yes.
But also we mask the mental health experience.
Well, we 100% do. And to bring up another example that I think is so common, and I'll use myself as an example, because I think it's common among clients, any client in any therapy office, is we mask. So we're going to go over the first one with anxiety, right? So people might want to try and appear composed or confident to mask the physical signs of distress, the trembling, the sweating hands. Well, a lot of times with anxiety, for people who have lived that experience, you can have panic attacks or anxiety attacks. And those are very real things.
Yep.
Well, when you look at really just like in the simplest of terms, those attacks come on because you're holding all of that within your body, and eventually it has no place to go. Well, when does this happen most often? When you've been wearing your mask for so long and you've been doing a darn good job of it.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember I had been wearing my mask all proud. I was at my daughter's soccer game, and I appeared great to people. And it had been like a month. And I'm sitting on the sidelines, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and I've got my mask on, and it is tight and firm, and we are good. And all of a sudden, my leg starts trembling. And I'm like, no. It's the start of a panic attack. And it increases. And then I started to have a pseudo seizure. So I leave. And I think, oh my gosh. And again, it's because I never took the time to take off my mask.
Yeah.
I never took the time to allow my body to release that anxiety.
Yeah. Because you're talking about pent up feels here.
Absolutely. And those physical symptoms. So I say to clients all the time, when you need to feel the feels, release it.
Yep.
Let your body feel it, because what happens then if you don't is it just grows within you.
Right. And depression is another one of these.
Yep, that'd be the next one.
That people may mask their sadness as possibly experienced by others as burdensome. We all, I think, do this.
Yes.
When my feels are going to burden you or impact you negatively in some way. So I'm going to just show up as happy, upbeat, to hide this internal distress. And if it's a coping strategy, that sometimes we need to do that.
Yeah.
It also, though, is, to your point, this is energy that needs a release. It may come through in moments we didn't expect, when we aren't giving it space to be released. And post-traumatic stress disorder is another one.
I mean, huge.
People might want to mask being affected by activating moments. They might not want to bring that up to people. That is, reminders of trauma are very vulnerable. And suppressing emotions connected to any of it might show up like you're just trying to soar above the fray.
Yep. And the triggering moments, unfortunately, with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD can come at the most random, inopportune times, which is the scary part too. So that's why you will, rather than taking the mask off with PTSD in intervals, you will just learn to wear it all the time, because you don't know when that trigger will happen, when that grief moment will happen.
Yep. And prolonged grief, you just mentioned the word grief. Prolonged grief is another one that people may mask more often. They may appear, another one, as happy-go-lucky, unbothered, maybe even joyful when they are in deep pain. And I've noticed that masking in this experience might look like humor. Finding things that, and as we said, coping tool until it isn't.
Right.
And certainly substance use disorders, people seeking to downplay their use.
Yes. Oh, yes. Make light of it.
Yes.
Joke about it.
And try to promote circumstances that may allow them to appear functional and in control of their use.
Yeah.
So high prone to masking, and autism spectrum disorder, where the efforts here are to camouflage challenges to fit in. Sometimes people even use the word camouflaging, trying to assess what would be the expectation in a neurotypical environment for neurotypical individuals, and then I need to adapt to that right away.
And I'm almost copying what they're doing in a way. I don't know how to do it, but I know I can copy what the person in front of me is doing.
And takes intense
it's
cognitive
exhausting.
and emotional energy to conform to what those social norms are.
Yep.
And remember, everybody, we're not saying that masking's bad.
No.
Actually, there's times where you bring it up, Tara, for post-traumatic stress disorder, or when you even had your own anxious experience.
Yep.
It's a way for you to say, I can control this moment. I can control this moment. So it's a coping tool, and coping tools are amazing.
They are.
The bigger question is how often, how intensely, and how long are we using masking to cope? And you've said it a couple times just in this show. We need to challenge ourselves to ask, is there anyone who knows how I actually feel?
Well, you asked that in a survey in one of our last episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You said, does at least someone know, one person know how I actually feel today?
Yes. So is there anyone who knows how I actually feel, and how long has it been since anyone knew how you actually felt or thought or perceived the world around you? So if you can answer, is there anyone who knows how I actually feel, and you can say yes, was it 2 years ago?
You didn't say when.
Because I'm going to ask you when. I'm going to ask you when. That is key.
Oh,
That is key.
Yes, it
Thoughts
is.
about that?
that is so huge, because I think everybody had a little sigh of relief when listening, who was like, does anyone know how you actually feel? Heck yeah. And then you were like, well, it can't be like 2 years ago. Dang it.
Right.
Like, do you mean like today?
Well, and you brought up,
Yeah.
hey, if we're wearing this, it's helpful in managing. It is helpful in managing. And I think that does help us look at what components do I have to navigate through challenging or difficult things. But are we giving ourselves maybe thoughtful space, intentional space to take off the mask and think about that we know we're even wearing it?
Right.
And then we're giving room on a regular basis. So when you say, is there anybody who knows, and how long ago was it that I actually told them? This is a personal challenge to people, that if we're masking ourselves, if we mask, we are hiding our true selves. Realness.
Right.
Realness is what's
just
under
be
that
real.
mask.
Yes.
And realness is real hard, though.
Oh,
Realness
it's
is real hard.
So hard, and that's why our masks are cemented onto our
Yes.
faces, is that idea of what we're asking is difficult and messy and all those things, because a lot of the times we ask what we ask you to do is messy.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
But it's that realness, because you need to feel.
Yes.
You need to feel.
You need to feel. And I want to read an excerpt from The Velveteen Rabbit,
Oh,
which
this is so
you love this book
good.
too. Marjorie Williams. If you haven't read this book before, listeners, Velveteen Rabbit, pick it up. It's a classic book. It's about a stuffed animal rabbit who learns what it means to be loved by a child. And we could make a solid case for it's a stuffed animal rabbit who learns how to be real. And this excerpt is a dialogue between the rabbit and the wise rocking horse, who are both characters in the book. And I'm going to read this.
And it's okay if tears develop
It's
in your
okay if
eyes, because Tara's right there with you.
So here goes. What is real? Asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender before Nana came to tidy the room. Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle? Real isn't how you are made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it hurt? Asked the rabbit. Sometimes, said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up? He asked, or bit by bit? It doesn't happen all at once, said the skin horse. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often for people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. And that is the end of the excerpt. But I want to read that last quote one more time. Hear me, everybody. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. Tara, what do you think?
I love that quote so much. I also think the fact that it talks about becoming, which is so your practice, becoming together.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea of what it means to be real. What it means to be real is taking off all the things that make someone or something beautiful. And it's revealing what's within that.
Yeah.
It's the raw, it's the messy, all the things. that true self.
Well, I love that in this book, in The Velveteen Rabbit, it basically says real looks ugly,
Yes, it does.
but it ain't.
But it's not. It's not.
It's
It
how we
is-
perceive those things. It
Yes.
means that you have been through,
Yep.
and there's a recognition of what has been experienced matches the outside.
Yep. And it is so, and I don't ever, this is not a criticism to people. It is very easy to choose to not do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And you will stay looking a certain way, right? And it certainly won't be ugly. But if you do the work, and it takes a lot of time, do the work to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like it said, your hair will fall off. You might be shaggy, loose around the edges, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be so authentic and so beautiful because that's your truest form of yourself. And
Yeah.
it is not easy to do.
Yep.
And so to say to someone, hey, do you want to do the work? And it's going to be really, really hard. And you are going to look real different in the end of it. And you're going to be worn down.
Yep.
But I will tell you, it will be so worth it because you will have loved and been loved to a degree that is indescribable.
Yeah, I mean, listeners, believe me, Tara and I hear you. We live there too.
Yeah.
We live there too. And we're calling ourselves out today in masking just as much as we're talking about this with anybody else. I feel like the wise horse in the story challenges us all to be real, and that process of being is just that. It's full of challenges, even when it might be experienced as ugly. Except that ugliness is so flippin' beautiful.
Oh my God, it so is.
Because it's true. It isn't pretty or perfect or put together, but it's something so much bigger than the opposite of any of those words.
Yep.
It's bigger than the opposite of those words. So let's think about masking as a coping tool and how and when to use it.
Yes.
I call this the 5 steps to deciding to mask.
Ooh, love
5 steps.
that.
So it is a coping tool. So it doesn't mean that you're not being real if you're
Right.
using this. It means that you are understanding what you need in a moment to navigate through. Think about this. Notice, this is step 1. Notice and realize masking is present and that you're using it.
Because the best thing is just noticing that you are. Because
Yes.
the scary part is when you get to a point where it's used so much, you stop realizing it. We
Yes.
don't want you to get to that point because that's where it stops being a tool.
Yes. So notice it. Acknowledge the purpose of it. That's step 2. Acknowledge the purpose of it. Look around you. Assess where you're at and say, oh, I get why I'd be masking right now. And that could be, I'm having a really huge feel and it is not going to be, I don't want to show it right now.
Right.
For whatever that is, but acknowledge the purpose of it. And step 3, identify what your real self feels, thinks, needs, or wants. So notice the inside. You've noticed the outside. You know you're wearing the mask. You understand the purpose of it. Think about the inside. And then, step 4, think for a moment. Ask yourself the question, does this help me right now? Does masking help me right now? And it might be different from what you're thinking internally or feeling
Right.
internally, but you're going to say, if you say yes, be compassionate, which is step 5. Be compassionate about your decision and tell yourself that you will process the real feel in a safe space when you can.
Yep.
Realness isn't relegated then. It is honored.
I love that. Can you say that last part again?
Realness isn't relegated, everybody. It is honored.
It is.
It's given its true space then. If you've said, I notice that I'm using the mask, I've acknowledged the purpose of it, I know what I feel actually. It helps me though to navigate this moment, to use the mask.
Yep.
I'm going to be kind to myself that I'm doing it. And I promise I will process this. Could be by ourselves, could be with a person.
Yep.
We are then saying realness is sacred. It gets space to be honored.
And the more you do this and take these 5 steps, the easier it's going to become, right? Because the first time it's going to be clunky. You're like, what did Becky say? Number 1, notice. And it will just be natural. So now what do we do about how do we take this mask off?
I know. Well,
I mean, because
tell us
clearly
some.
I have a trouble
tell us
taking
some.
it off.
How to take? Okay,
Yeah.
How to take off the mask
Yeah.
because you have it on.
Yeah.
You've assessed and done the 5 steps and said makes sense. I will process this later. But
Yep.
then how do I take it off?
Yeah. So one thing, journal and self-reflect, particularly for people that have a hard time verbalizing it. Another thing I would add to the journaling piece is, if you don't like to express through words, is the drawing piece.
Great idea.
Just doodle. Whatever you need to do is going to reveal something about your emotions. Also, think about who you are, your choices, and what is authentic to you. And this part is so scary because sometimes what is authentic and right to you is going against the norm of the other humans around you.
And you can think about this anytime. You
Absolutely.
could be driving, you could be
Yep.
sitting anywhere.
Yep.
And you don't even have to share it out loud. But if
No.
you know it, you
Yep.
know it.
And be true to that.
Yep.
Right? And stick to what is authentic to you and just reflect on your choices. Another one is just practicing acknowledging to yourself how you feel and think about things that don't feel good.
Oh, good point.
So often we think about, well, what makes me feel good? Therefore, I'm going to do those things. But what if we looked at the opposite and thought, what are the things that don't make me feel good? And then how can I avoid feeling that way? Or how can I choose differently
Yeah.
so that I don't?
Well, you bring up, that's such a great strategy because considering maybe setting the boundaries around things that don't feel good.
And we love boundaries.
When we know that if we've identified that they don't feel good, things that might require significant amounts of masking, do I need to do them? Can I
Yes.
set a boundary around it?
Yep.
Challenging ourselves to share with even one person in our world.
Yep.
Ask that question of is there anyone who knows how I actually feel? Challenge yourself to share it and share maybe personal experiences, if you haven't done this very much, that feel a little less intense.
Yes.
We don't have to start with the most significant emotions.
No.
We don't have to start if there's a mental health issue that
Right.
you feel you're masking. You don't have to start with the most intense example.
I always think of it like I'll talk to clients about like digging a hole. The minute you start shoveling, you don't go from 0 to 3 feet in 2 seconds.
Yeah, good point.
You start and you take off the pretty layer of grass. Where, because I talk about life is messy, right? So it's like, ooh, you take that pretty layer off and you're like, oh God, but you did it, right? And now you've hit that first layer. And then over time, you can get deeper.
Totally. And, be kind to yourself. Practice compassion about that because it does take time.
Yeah,
It totally
and
does
energy.
take time.
Yeah.
I think about reclaiming something you hide as unique to you. This is hard to do.
I know,
Because
but
if we
it's
mask
so
it-
amazing.
If you say, okay, wow, that thing that I try to not show anybody about me makes me quirky.
It does.
Makes me quirky, makes me an individual, and own it from a space of that's your uniqueness.
Yep. And that uniqueness is beautiful.
Totally. It's real.
It's so real.
And I think about the phrase, I'm fine.
We never use that phrase.
I haven't in the last 8 seconds.
If you said 8 days, I was gonna call you
Yeah,
out and be like,
no, wait.
liar.
Oh, no, 8 seconds. Avoid saying any go-to phrase around things like I'm fine. So try to match more of how you feel with something to say.
And we talked about that in the episode about the how are you?
Yes.
Right? Try and match.
Yes. And so it doesn't mean you have to full in share exactly what's happening for you. But is there a way to not have it conflict so much that if you aren't fully fine,
Yep.
what's a way to convey that? And how would you say you do that, Tara?
Taking my mask off.
Yeah.
Like I said, I need to do it more. When I've worn it too long and I become very aware of it, the first step I do to increase my chance that I'm going to take it off, because it's hard, is I go to a safe place or safe person. Because then I know I'm more likely to do it.
I mean, know who your people are
Yep.
and build those relationships. So much to think about here.
So much.
It's been a great discussion. We're headed to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk through all of your questions about masking. Feels Out Loud is going to be here to process your questions and thoughts in just a moment.
Then you'll find yourself. You gotta find the people.
We are back again with Feels Out Loud. And this part of the show is where we talk through questions from our listeners. If you have a question related to mental wellness, sharing feelings, or topics for each week that you would like us to process through, please visit our website at becomingtogethermn.com and find the Feels Out Loud page to submit a question directly, or email us at contact@becomingtogethermn.com. We really do want to hear from you and what you are wondering about.
Lots of thoughts about masking. Lots of thoughts about masking. And hey, everybody, if you have not heard this already from us, we are right there with you. To a fellow masker from a fellow masker. Lots of questions. I appreciate them. Our first listener says, how can I tell if someone is masking?
Such a great question.
And my first thought back is you might not be able to. So let's be real.
Especially if they're an expert in wearing masks.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And if they're if they've practiced this a lot, you might not be able to tell. But there are some things that we can use as a little bit of a deductive tool.
Yep.
It doesn't mean, though, and I'm answering this question not from a spot of you don't necessarily have to do anything about somebody masking. That might be their coping tool in this moment.
Yep.
So I want to honor their space if they are feeling like they need to mask. But how to tell? Incongruent affect to content. In the therapeutic world, we say incongruent affect. And this is displaying emotions that don't align with circumstances or experiences. So if somebody appears very happy-go-lucky during an experience that might not be that, might be masking. Let's say somebody is cheerful or perky when they're enduring something really hard. We can think about this concept of masking. Or when the content they're saying doesn't really match their tone or body language. That might be incongruent affect. They're different. One thing to think about is they're different in public than more private circumstances.
Yep.
They're showing up differently in different spots.
I think of with the incongruent affect, I think a common one is laughing when they're describing something, or laughing when certain content is discussed.
Good point.
They don't think it's funny.
Yep.
Right.
And if the last one I would say is big shifts in body language that are sudden. So somebody goes from seemingly very outgoing to withdrawn.
Yep.
That might be, I was masking and all of a sudden I'm not able to, kind of to your anxiety example.
Oh my gosh, it fell off for a second.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Second listener asks us a question, Tara, of is there a way to not mask, but also not fully share what we're feeling? Maybe they're talking about like, do I have like a half a mask?
Yeah. Ooh, like the ones at masquerade balls where people, I guess, don't know who it is, but you can clearly tell who it is.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea of you're revealing a piece of who you are, but not your whole self. I think there is a way.
The first thought that I had was an intensity scale of, is there a way, as you and I just said in the last segment, to more match your inside experience, what's real for you, without maybe saying all of it. So is there a way to think about it's not none or everything,
right?
But can I share at a 5 out of 10?
Yep.
Or a 6 out of 10, or even a 2?
Yep.
So to this listener, is there a way to not mask, but also not fully share? Of course there is, because if we expand the way we even think about how we might describe it, what are the other words you might use that don't say fully what it is?
Right.
To my point of authentic faking, what aspect of what's real for you do you feel comfortable showing?
That's a great way to look at it. And now, as far as creating a visual in your mind, if you look at it as a full mask and one that's heavier, and then if you're working toward the messiness, like in Velveteen Rabbit, then maybe it does switch from a physical mask where it's just over your eyes with your little stick, which is so much easier to remove and put back.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we came up with a new metaphor.
Yep.
I love
metaphors.
And we're already at the end of our show for today. Thank you for listening, everyone, this morning. Join us next week as we talk through integrative medicine and how this can influence not only your physical health, but mental wellness too. And in the week ahead, be kind to yourself, everyone. Remember that connection fosters wellness, and your voice is one the world around you needs to hear. Share yourselves, friends.
I wanna be